right. Hey guys, I'm sitting down with Titans of Siren. I almost say your guys' name wrong every time. I want to always say it backwards. Um, you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick and then we'll jump right in?
Yeah, I'm Kirk. I guess I'm the instrumentalist for the
Okay.
band.
Yeah, my name's Matt. I'm the vocalist. Kirk's actually the mastermind, not just the instrumentalist.
Wow. That's heavy. um, so uh your name is based off of a Kurt Vonnegut book, ostensibly, I'm assuming.
That is
Which is why I want to say it wrong every time. So I wanted to ask a little bit about like how you guys settled on that and which one of you, if not both of you, is the Vonnegut fan.
so I came up with the name. Obviously, it's Sirens of Titan in reverse.
Right?
First of all, because it sounds epic, and you kind of have like a space rocky vibe.
Mhm.
And I thought it would be so. First of all, that was, as far as I know, the first book that Vonnegut had written, and it was the first one that I read. And it just really resonated with me on a personal level because the book kind of it touches a lot on perspective and how humans perceive things, and how things aren't necessarily what they seem to be. And so it just, especially in times like these, I just thought that it really hit the nail on the head, and it was just a great name for our project.
Yeah, I always, love the swap when you're naming bands because I think it's so tongue in cheek and it's like an old staple, but it's very clever. So, just oh, an emergency call. But yeah, I thought it was really clever. It's so hard for me to not say it wrong when I'm trying to like talk about you guys, but um so I was gonna ask, do you feel like, and I'll comment after you guys answer on what I think, but do you feel like you carry some of the energy from the way that Kurt Vonnegut writes and like the topics that he writes about to your own projects and into the work that you guys are doing as musicians?
Not really. I think we're both, you know, we both read a bit and we're both influenced by great authors. And the only thing that really directly corresponds, I'd love to see how Matt feels about this, but I think that so far the aesthetic of the band is kind of like sci-fi and kind of trippy and kind of eye-catching. And so it's a loose correlation, but I'd say that that's basically the only way that we directly relate to someone like Kurt Vonnegut.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, sorry guys. I'm trying to figure out how to not interrupt the Zoom with my phone again. But yeah, Kirk, throw that back at me again. Let me really focus on what you said this time.
No, you're good. So she was asking about Kurt Vonnegut and the name and how it corresponds with our music and art. And I just said it's kind of a loose relationship because the only way I see it really correlating is through kind of our image and aesthetic and the sci-fi kind of trippy aesthetic that we have going for us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what you said earlier, just about the uncertainty of life and everything. I mean, I think that it definitely relates well with that, but I wouldn't say it goes much further, So definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is, Kurt Vonnegut's known for being like a counterculture icon, which obviously, when you're making music of the type that you guys make, which is kind of grungy, kind of shoegaze, kind of, you got a lot of different aspects going on. Obviously, it's not of the typical, pop and rock and R&B that you're hearing on the radio. So in that aspect, I see the counterculture there, but also when you're reading Vonnegut, I feel like he doesn't have, like, his stories aren't compact. It's like he writes about ideas and like these larger, more nebulous things. And so when I was listening to some of the music you guys sent me, I did kind of get that vibe. You guys do tell a story, obviously, lyrically, but you kind of take us on an odyssey musically. So I do kind of think that you guys carry at least that vibe over into your music, which I thought was really neat to kind of the juxtaposition of two entirely different art forms.
Mhm.
How do things like what you read, or maybe other things that you take in, like TV and film and other types of music, how do those impact you when you are trying to come up with how to tell a story musically? How do they inspire you, I guess?
I think, you just kind of pick and choose the things that you like. Um, and I already touched on kind of the image of the band and wanting to create something that was ominous and eye-catching and things like that. And so you kind of take what you see and um you judge it for what you like, what you don't like, how you would change things. And Chloe, it's interesting because like the whole you know film thing and photography, like I'm that was not me a year ago. COVID just kind of gave Matt and I this opportunity to experiment with just imagery in general. And so I think it's just a lot of processing things that you like and being able to analyze them in a way where it translates to your art, but also connects to your audience.
Sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I felt like on this project, for me, since Kirk did a lot of the writing, it was almost like I just had to step into a character,
Sure.
reading the lyrics that he had written and listening to the music, and then I'd have Kirk explain what these songs meant to him, and a lot of them were written off personal experiences. So it was almost like I was stepping into Kirk's mind and getting to play this character that is, Kirk's inner
Right.
voice.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's what
Chloe,
I was gonna say. Oh, go ahead.
well, it's interesting that you bring up other art because I would argue that the biggest influence over our music is actually just the Midwest and where we're
Mhm.
from. Because we're both from Springfield, Illinois, and that's where this entire record was recorded. And it's just something about the Midwest, honestly, where it's a place where, with the exception of Chicago being in Illinois, you've got a lot of cornfields. It's
Right.
very blue collar, somewhat conservative. And so from that, it's an easy place to live. Let's
Right.
let's say that, just kind of a laid back lifestyle. But then you're growing up and having all these, experiences and relationships throughout, your upbringing, if you will.
Right.
And you kind of it's interesting how it's sculpted the music scene in the Midwest because you get a lot of folks that are seemingly tired of that lifestyle. They
Mhm.
want to be in a more progressive setting. So you get, just a lot of shoegazy stuff, some punk stuff. You have bands like the Smashing Pumpkins coming out of Chicago, bands like Hum coming out of Champaign, who
Mhm.
are space rock. And then on from Springfield, we had a really cool punk scene. And there's a band that made it pretty recently called Looming, and they're like, I think
Okay.
they're signed to No Sleep Records, but they're like indie, and it was really interesting because there is quite an edge to Midwestern music that really is
Sure.
cultivated by the culture and just the surroundings and things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is a lot of what I get from your music is kind of the like, oh my God, I'm so tired of the suburbs feel, which is something. It's not necessarily unique to the Midwest, but I have friends from the Midwest, and I know a lot of people come down out of like Michigan and Illinois to Nashville to make music. And I think that condition of like being a kid that was just like raised in a like small tight knit community. Maybe it's not a small town, but it's a neighborhood, and you're just like, oh, like I want to spray paint stuff and set stuff on fire just to like cause
Right.
chaos. Like you just want to introduce some kind of something interesting to your environment. Which is a lot of what I got from just the little bit of your music that I've been able to listen to. Did you guys meet in Springfield, or did you meet after you moved to Nashville?
So this
Yeah.
is an interesting story. Matt, I'll let you kick it off if you want.
Well, yeah, sure. So Kirk and I were both in the same band, but at different times.
No way.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, I was drumming for this band back in college called Blind Social,
Okay.
and it was a band that I was really invested in. I actually left school, moved back up to Springfield to put more focus in that band, and it didn't end up working out. But after I left, I was playing drums in that band. After I left, they went through a couple drummers, I think, and then they found Kirk. And so I hadn't really met Kirk. I just knew him as the new drummer in Blind Social. And then I think we may have met at a show, like Barrelhead or something, some
Yeah.
bar. And then we met a couple more times, at downtown in the bar scene. And one of our shared bandmates, Alexis, I was still really good friends with her after I left the band, and her and Kirk became close. So, it was through music that we met.
That is so cool. That's hysterical, actually.
Hmm.
I love how things like that uh, just tend to happen in like scenes, especially, when you're, I think people underestimate how tight, like, especially rock scenes are in a lot of cities, because it's not what's in the top 40 right now. So if you're making rock music, you're automatically like part of the underground. And so there's just not a ton of people out there doing it. And this situation happens quite often where people will be in the same band, a year apart or whatever, inadvertently. But that's super cool. So you guys, uh, then did you guys move to Nashville at different times, or like around the same?
So Matt is still in Springfield, and
Okay.
so
Okay.
it's corresponding between Nashville and Springfield, and so like a lot of the artwork that you're seeing. So let me backtrack here. It was recorded before I moved to Nashville.
Okay. So a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, and so then a lot of the visual aesthetic was created when I actually went back to Springfield for 3 or 4 or 5 months at the beginning of quarantine,
Right.
and
Okay.
so we really took advantage of that time to get together and figure out that, hey, this is finally going to be released,
Right.
and then just kind of get photos and kind of a marketing plan going. And it was really funny because, and Chloe, I'm sure you've had familiar experiences, but like during quarantine you go stir crazy, you just
Oh
do.
my God.
There's
Yes.
you Yeah, you get bored and there's not a lot to do. And so um I've had some people reach out and ask where like we get the ideas for like taking pictures with lighters and doing things with glow sticks. And
Right.
people always joke like, "Oh, are you just like pacing around the house and trying to come up with
And you're like,
ideas?"
yes.
Yeah. And it's funny because Matt was just so good about just like being open for everything and adding his own original ideas that have worked so well, where I'll call him and be like, hey, like I just hung 50 glow sticks from the ceiling on my back deck. We should do a photo shoot. He's like, yeah, for sure. And then he comes along, we get all these awesome pictures, and he's like, let's add this, let's add this, let's add this. And so it's really just a cool fit between the two of us, where he's just like all in on it and really receptive. And I'm really grateful and excited just with his attitude and just him being so um willing to just be along for the ride and add his own ideas to it, honestly.
Wow, I'm blushing. Thank you.
That's
No, yeah, the photo shoots were so much fun. I mean, it really was just a creative. The first, I think we did two or three, and the first one was we just had lighters. Kirk said, "Hey, well, I got some lighters. Why don't you come over? We're gonna figure something out." And Kirk's girlfriend was there, and yeah, she was great to bounce ideas off of too, and she was doing a lot of the actual photographing. And I mean, yeah, we would just move around different spaces, find different lighting, and just kind of go for it. And the glow stick shoot was a lot of fun because
Hmm.
I mean we ended up just like throwing glow sticks all over the place. Basically, we try to get these like little, like a short video, like slow motion videos of like glow sticks falling, and half the time
Hmm.
they were just throwing them at my head, and it was a lot of fun.
I think a lot of great creative energy comes out of that like chaotic boredom, you know? And
Hmm.
this is why I'm doing this, because I was sitting around my house like playing with matches, you know, and I was like,
Exactly.
I might as well be doing something cool. So I mean, I wouldn't be here interviewing you guys if it wasn't for that same type of, creative chaos where you might as well be doing something. That's cool. So your whole project is done remotely. How far apart are Nashville and Springfield? I don't know Midwest geography at all because everything in Texas is 150 miles away. So
It's about a 5.5 hour drive.
I was like, okay, so it's like
Hmm.
substantial. Okay.
Hmm.
But you guys still meet up from time to time to actually work on stuff together.
Yeah, we do. It's just hard with COVID because Matt's
Sure.
been here a couple of times, and obviously I visited Springfield, but unfortunately, with the current circumstances, he's working in healthcare,
Oh wow.
and Nashville cases are just blowing up. And
Mhm.
so, what I will say is that we were lucky enough to take advantage of the time that we had before, to get enough material to be able to market this.
Mhm.
But yeah, we haven't seen each other in person since July.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
But yeah, that's just kind of the world right now for you,
Sure.
unfortunately. But luckily, we have tools like Zoom and
Right.
email and just everything, social media, just to be able to correspond, which makes it so much easier now than it would have been even 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say is I've been really impressed. Most of the bands that I've interviewed over the past several weeks, um, of the ones that like, I interviewed two brothers, so obviously, they're living in the same house. It's a little bit different, but the rest of them are working remotely and making music remotely and, making promos remotely. And so that to me is so impressive. Especially, 5.5 hours is like a long, long way,
Mhm.
but you guys are making it happen, and I think that's really cool. Um, so you guys, so I was listening to the single you guys sent me, and I get a lot of different vibes from it. It's very unique, the sound that you guys have. Um, is there a genre that you guys would say this project fits into? 'Cause I don't think there's one that it fits into neatly, but I get grunge vibes, I get shoegaze, a little bit of mathy vibes. So when you guys set out to make this project, were you like, I want to start a grunge band? Or did you just kind of sit down and start writing and then it kind of became its own thing?
Matt, do you want to take this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I guess when Kirk first approached me about, recording the vocals for him, I didn't know what to expect, because I only knew Kirk played drums. I didn't know he wrote and played guitar and recorded and sang. And so, I'm listening to these early demos that he was sending me, and it was definitely tough to fit it into a category because each song is pretty unique. Um, I don't know. I guess I always kind of just thought of like, just alt rock. I mean,
Sure.
it all rocks, and but it's not rock and roll. But
Right.
yeah, I always called it alt rock. But I mean, like you guys said, shoegaze and grunge. I mean, you can really just throw a lot of different labels on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely what I was thinking when listening to it. I thought obviously you guys have a lot of different inspirations and people that you take influence from. What were some of your major influences you feel uh, to your writing process?
Uh, for me, I think it's, you know, we talk about shoegaze and My Bloody Valentine. Loveless is like one of my favorite records ever. And then there are some there there are some darker songs on this record, which, for me, I get lots of inspiration from, Nine Inch Nails, Tool, wearing a Tool shirt right now, if you guys can't see
Sweet.
it. But Foo Fighters is probably my favorite band in the world. But more recently, I've been listening to bands like Royal Blood and obviously living in Nashville, you listen to Jason Isbell and some
Sure.
Americana type stuff and lots of car seat headrests. But yeah, and it's funny because I'd say that Matt and I actually have a pretty similar taste in music. Matt, what do you think?
I'd say so. I mean, you might be, a little more into the heavier stuff than I am. Especially these days, I kind of, lean more towards like indie and lo-fi, Claro, Twin Peaks, Her, stuff like that. Boy Pablo, I really like Boy Pablo. But I mean, growing up, I was I was heavily influenced in high school by Muse, so just that's pretty just classic alt rock, like with some electronic influences. But definitely, I went through a Avenged Sevenfold phase, which I know there's a lot of debate on whether or not they're actually a good band, but I like them. So yeah.
I feel like if you like it, it doesn't matter if it's a good band. Because I can tell you that there's some stuff I listen to that is just bad, and I like it, so I don't feel like it matters,
Right.
And if it influences you, I don't think, if you can take something from a band, maybe not everybody likes them, but you can get influence from it and make it something that's palatable and enjoyable for everyone. I think there's a lot of merit to that. It's like Nirvana's entire Unplugged album was those weird Meat Puppets songs that nobody had ever heard.
Mhm.
And then everybody heard them and they were like, whoa, this stuff is tight. So I think I think everybody has bands where they're like, I don't know, this band probably sucks, but I like it. And I think that inspires us to make things that maybe, aren't so niche and that more people enjoy or more relatable. So I think it's cool to like music that some people think sucks. Okay, so you guys have the new single dropping December 1st, right?
Yeah, so it's December 1st, is when we'll be releasing the lyric video. And I'll be
Okay.
sure to post that stuff on Instagram and YouTube and all the socials. But we had a minor problem with the distributor not
Okay.
willing to release the song to streaming platforms on the first, and so it'll be pushed back to the fourth. So for
Okay.
anyone who's watching this on the first, we do apologize. It's pretty much my fault, but it is what it is.
You still get to hear the song on the first. You just can't stream it. You just have to watch it on
Exactly,
YouTube.
yeah.
That's
And
okay. We can just got
honestly, you
about
can
three
just
days.
download the audio link from the YouTube
Right.
file. It's fine.
Well, I think, you'll get 3 days of like anticipation. You get like the tease out there on social media and then you got to make people wait until the 4th. So
Yeah, it's just our marketing plan, I guess.
exactly. That's what you should just tell everyone. You 100% did it on purpose. You're like, yeah, this is genius. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. I mean, who knows? It might work out for us in the end.
um, is there any, like behind the scenes, can you tell us anything about the single before it drops? Or are you keeping it pretty tight-lipped about the single?
Not really. You kind of touched on what it was about before in terms of, so the song's called How Not to Leave Town, and the title itself is a tongue-in-cheek joke towards the band Car Seat Headrest, they have an entire album called How to Leave Town. And the song just briefly is about being in a situation that you want to get out of, but you can't. And
Right.
so I mean, there's another shout out to COVID for you, but yeah. And so it was, I talked to Matt about it because we wanted to do a couple singles before, because we're sitting on a full album. And that was always the one that resonated the most with us because it has kind of the dreamy shoegaze part to it, and it's very riffy, but God, his vocals just kill on it. They're so good. And, you know, we would show it to our friends and they would be like, that's the one, you know? And so here we are ready to officially release it. And I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
agree. How Not to Leave Town is definitely my favorite. I think it was the first one we worked on when I first came into the project. And just immediately even, because Kirk recorded all the vocals before I re-recorded them. And I like Kirk singing a lot more than he likes his own singing. So yeah, just listening to it, reading the lyrics, I fell in love with it immediately, and then getting to record the vocals was a lot of fun. But I think what we were talking about earlier, in the Midwest, and the suburbs, the small towns, wanting like that song's just, to me at least, speaks to me as kind of the epitome of that. I mean, you know, very first line of the song, Kirk, if you don't mind me just throwing a line
Go
out
for
there.
it.
Yeah. First line is, "My Stockholm for this city is lost." And that's just like, it really hits the nail on the head. It's like, you growing up in the Midwest, you learn to love it. And then one day you're like, maybe I hate it here, and it's a love hate thing, but
Right.
yeah, I'm really excited for people to hear this one first. Kirk's teased it a lot in a lot of the promos and on Instagram and Facebook, but yeah, I think this one will really speak to a lot of people, and I think it's a great single to start with.
Yeah, it certainly resonated with me. And like I said, I'm not from the Midwest, but I'm from a minuscule town in Texas uh, that has like 2,000 people in it. And my family's been here for 6 generations. And I'm like,
Wow.
let me out. And this whole single was like, yes, like I vibed with it majorly. Do you know when we can expect a full album?
So the original marketing plan is to release 2 singles. And um, with COVID, we're gonna do a little more promo for the next one. Matt came up with this really freaking awesome music video idea for it, which I won't spoil until we get the logistics down. But we're planning on shooting that. Unfortunately, with COVID, it's difficult to meet up and film that. But I'm thinking if I had to put a time on it, probably spring of next year.
Okay, that's not
Yeah,
too far out.
no, and Chloe, it's the thing with this album is that it was always meant to be a CD when I started recording it because I'm a weirdo and listen to CDs in my car. I have a 2007 Jetta that sells a CD player, and so I was just so like mesmerized by a lot of the records that I loved, where you open up the CD case and you have all this cool artwork, and it's tangible. Like I made
Yeah,
this,
absolutely.
and with this project being so heavily like image and aesthetic influenced, I really wanted just to, have something where that was tangible with all these cool pictures to kind of set the vibe for what you're about to hear. And
Sure.
yeah, the problem is that doing it, with 2 people is kind of difficult because you run into weird problems like, oh, well, how do I make a CD label that looks good, or
Right.
just weird things like that. And so it's been a really fun process, but frustrating at times for sure.
Sure. And what I was going to say is when you have a project that's just 2 people, I think there's a intimacy and also just an honesty. You don't have to please everybody. And if there's 5 of you, it's like, all right, well, this is what I want to do. What do you guys want to do? But when there's just 2 of you, I think that there's a whole lot more of a cohesiveness to the idea of like, what do we want this to be? And you don't have to check it with anybody else. It's just what you 2 guys want, which I think is really cool. And I think that comes through in a lot of the visuals and stuff that you guys have dropped on your social media, which is super cool, and everybody should go check that out. Follow them on Instagram because they've got a really cool vibe there. So just to finish up, because we're almost at our limit for Zoom, what are you guys listening to right now? Not necessarily that's like influencing you, but like music that you're super into that's dropped, let's say during quarantine.
Ooh.
Matt, do you want to take that one?
Well, I was originally gonna say Liz Cooper in the Stampede, but she hasn't put anything out recently. During quarantine, I did mention Boy Pablo earlier. He just put out a new album, which is very good. It's got it's got 5 music videos that all kind of intertwine,
Sweet.
and the music videos are narrated by the same guy that narrated Tiger King.
No
So,
way.
yeah, I don't know, they liked his voice and they contacted him, and he
Oh
was
my
down
God.
for it.
That's awesome.
But yeah. I mean, I really love Boy Pablo. I got to see them at Lollapalooza last year, and they're just like wholesome. I mean, they're just really they're from. I kind of want to say Denmark, but maybe not. I don't know. They're from Europe, and I don't know. They just have like a real innocent, wholesome way about them, but also Liz Cooper is somebody who I really got into during quarantine. She actually was in Springfield last summer. I didn't know her back then, but she's a little poppy, little country, even a little Americana here and there. And yeah, I mean, she's just her voice, her guitar playing, her songwriting, it's all just spot on and really, really helps the soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kirk, what about you?
I've been pretty stoked about they've only released a single, but the new Foo Fighters stuff is pretty good. I'm really looking forward to Royal Blood's new album, which is going to be great. But that's pretty much it, man. And I don't know, I haven't had too much time to just sit down and listen to new stuff. I'm one of the cheap people that I don't know. I don't have Spotify Premium, which is
Right.
terrible. And so I discover a lot of stuff on YouTube, but in doing that, you kind of fall down a rabbit hole of I focus more on visuals rather than listening to a song, And so I haven't been listening to a whole lot of new music, admittedly, which is kind of shame on me, but that's the truth.
You've been making it though, so I feel like you get an excuse because you've been
I like to
producing
think
a ton of
so.
new music. So I was cracking up when you were saying that you have an old car and listen to CDs in your car, because that was literally, I bought a car 3 months ago, but before that I was driving a 2005 that only had a CD player, but it had a 6 CD changer. So I had all these CDs in there. So that's totally my life. Was just listening to the same CD all the way down for 3 months in a row. So but I think that's a really cool, fact about your inspiration and how you structure things, because not everybody listens to albums all the way down now, and not everybody makes albums to be listened to all the way down. And so I think that's a kind of a cool kickback to the era of, when people were making these rock operas, or alt stories basically they were telling in albums. And that makes a lot of sense, in the way that you've written some of the music you're making. So I thought that was really cool. Okay, well, cool. Well, let's wrap up. We'll plug social medias, and you can tell us when and where we can listen to the new single. And
yeah, so our Facebook is simply Titans of Siren. And actually, our Instagram is too, at Titans of Siren. Snagged that one, luckily.
you guys got it.
Yeah, right. And then the new single, the lyric video is going to be released on December 1st, and then it will be available on all streaming platforms on December 4th.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for sitting down with me, and I cannot wait to listen to your new single on Spotify, and I'm very much anticipating the full-length album. So you guys are killing it. All right.
Thank you, Chloe.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.